Good evening. What is going on, everybody? Andre Cassidy here for Charlotte Vibe, your credentialed media source covering the Carolina Panthers, coming at you with a quick update video here on this Thursday as the Panthers continue to make preparations for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And before we get started and go too deep into tonight's quick update video, I just want to give a quick shout out to all of you out there, and I hope all of you had a Merry Christmas on Monday. This is really the first opportunity that I can really get to say it to you guys since the Christmas holidays. So, again, to everybody out there, I hope all of you had a wonderful Christmas as we get ready for 2024, which is legit right around the corner, ladies and gentlemen. So I hope the holiday season has been kind to all of you. And again, we appreciate all of your support throughout this season. I know um, it's been a year, right, for all of you out there. So the continued support is what is getting both Chris and I through some of the challenging parts of covering this team this season. Miss a 2-14 or 2-13 year. Let's hope it's not 2-14 after Sunday's game. But again, to all of you out there, we appreciate the support. Start leaving those comments down in the comment section. I'm going to get to those here rather shortly. Go ahead and hit up that like button. I know three of you already have done it, so let's continue to keep that trend going and consider giving us a subscription right here at Charlotte Vibe. We have the best people here, right? Me and Chris Jenkins covering this team. We do it on the behalf of all of you guys out there, and we are a independent media company supported by all of you. So anything that you guys want us to do for you, we're gonna listen, and that's why we're here. We do it for everybody who tunes in each and every single day. So continue to keep at it here, because hey, the season it's about to end, folks. 2 games left in a year, with this one being in Jacksonville, and then the final home game that we will be here to cover will be against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So, ultimately speaking, however, this season has been a tough one, but it has gone by pretty quick. I, I mean, I hate to say it, but it has gone by pretty quick. I guess that's a good thing, just to impart with everything that has gone awry for this team. But it has definitely been another fun season covering the team with Chris Jenkins and Charlotte Vibe. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and cover the injury report for today with the team. Another long list of players on this injury report, but some good news to cover, right? Really, the only two players that did not participate in practice today was Troy Hill and J.C. Horn. Troy Hill still dealing with that concussion that he suffered, and J.C. Horn dealing with a toe injury. So those two players both did not participate today or in yesterday's practice. But folks who did participate, but on a limited basis, Akem Ikwadu, Frankie Luvu, um, amongst others. I believe Brian Burns. Actually, no, scratch that. Brian Burns was not on the injury report yesterday. I thought he was, but pretty much some good news there. Marquise Haynes was a limited participant in today's practice. Same thing with Taylor Moton. Both players did not participate in yesterday's practice, but today came in on a limited basis and was able to practice in some capacity here today. Let me go ahead and hit up the comment section real quick because I do have a couple people who are tuning in now. Shaked, one of our regulars, saying what's up. Glad to have you on here today. Thomas Frisbee saying what's up as well. Glad to have you guys in here on a Thursday. And we're going to continue to keep moving forward here. But again, keep leaving those comments down in the comments section, and we'll be getting to some of those here rather shortly. So that's pretty much it with the injury report. Pretty straightforward. And let me just say this as well. On the Jacksonville side of things, I don't want to go too far into their situation, But Trevor Lawrence was not a participant in today's practice for them. So that's now 2 consecutive days that he has not practiced for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So that will be interesting to watch as the rest of the week progresses. Now, look, um, we're only on Thursday, right? So we're really not going to know the full picture of their respective situations until tomorrow. Tomorrow will be a pretty key day in terms of where things are going to go with a couple of these players who did not participate today. Tomorrow is going to be really the day where you're going to see a clearer picture in regards to their status for Sunday's game. But Trevor Lawrence did not participate in their practice today. So, again, that's something that we're going to be keeping an eye on as we move forward here over the next 24 to 48 hours. So, with that being said, let me cover some things that were discussed in today's pressers. Of course, Thomas Brown and Ejiro Evero had their weekly press conference today. And I just want to highlight Thomas Brown's presser today because there was a lot of interesting things that were said and the back and forths that were being discussed in his presser today. And before I get into that, I have a good old Bryce Young t-shirt on right now. I thought it was fit for the occasion after a career performance on Sunday's games. So it was good to break out the Bryce Young t-shirt. I know I'm breaking Chris's rule for not having a collared t-shirt on, but I think it's fitting for the occasion that we break some rules, right? But in any event, let's talk about Thomas Brown and some of the things that he had to say in today's presser. The first being the whole Chuba Hubbard thing and how he has performed this season. Leave a comment down in the comment section below. How did you guys feel about Chuba Hubbard this season? He's been really respectable in terms of the kind of numbers that he's been putting up. And Thomas Brown alluded to that and saying that he's been one of the more consistent players on this offense. A guy at the beginning of the season wasn't the number one back. That was supposed to be Miles Sanders. And Chuba Hubbard kind of just played his way onto the field. His production has been respectable, and he has made a marked improvement from years past to this year. I know a lot of you indicated that in the past, the one thing that he wasn't particularly good at doing, which is being a receiver out of the backfield, right? That's one of the things that a lot of people knocked him on was his inability to be that dynamic running back coming from the backfield in the passing game. And this year, he's really stepped up his play in regards to that and has made marked improvements in his game. When you look at his numbers, right, he is about 250 yards away from a 1,000-yard season for a guy that really coming in was supposed to be that secondary back behind Miles Sanders. To be able to make that happen over the course of this year. There's somebody saying my audio is a little low. Let me go ahead and adjust that real quick and make that a little bit better so everybody can hear me. Okay, we should be good now. Just double check if it's still low on your guys' end, but I think we should be good now. I just updated it to where we can have a louder sound, right? But in any event, Chuba Hubbard really played himself onto the field and made himself that guy that we thought Miles Sanders was going to be. And, for him, that really is impressive because, even last season, right, he was somebody that had a hot end to the year, and he has put it together now in a full season. And, for him, that's really, really a marked improvement And Shakid with a comment here saying that drafting Chuba was the only thing that Matt Rule did while in Carolina. So that's definitely one of those draft picks that he did hit on. Um, and I think for Chuba Hubbard moving forward, he's still a young guy. I think when I view him, I think he's a solid number two back, right? I think he's a really good number two back who can be a number one, but preferably speaking, I would prefer that to be somebody else. That's just my opinion. But, he does bring a lot to the table, and he's somebody that has been a valued member of this offense and one of the lone bright spots of this offense here this season. I'm looking at his numbers right now, and he has 774 yards rushing on the year. So for him to have those kinds of numbers and to put up the kind of things that he's been able to do this season, I mean, that's you got to give him credit for that. So kudos to Tuba Hubbard, excuse me, for being able to put up the kind of season that he's had and taking advantage of the opportunities that he had to earn, right? I mean, coming into the season, like I keep saying, Miles Sanders was the number one back, and they're paying him like a number one back. And so when you look at that whole situation, for him to pretty much leapfrog him into that number one role, that's pretty impressive, and you got to give him credit for that. And the other thing that caught my eye and the presser with Thomas Brown was the whole idea about potentially being a candidate for the head coaching job for the Panthers, right? And this is all speculation, right? Hypotheticals, you name it. And he basically said, look, I'm not even worried about that right now. I'm worried about what we're going to be doing today in preparation for Sunday's game, talking about how they just had a meeting on, how well they did on third down in Sunday's game. And he basically kind of just, scoffed at the question and kind of just said, hey, look, I mean, that stuff is just out of my control. And for me, when you hear that kind of question, I mean, it's interesting to hear his perspective because obviously, I don't think he's going to be back next season. Um, there's going to be a complete overhaul, if you will, of the staff. Um, I don't see Thomas Brown coming back. I think he moves on to a more um, favorable situation. Um, is he going to get head coaching calls? I don't know. Just with how things have gone for this Panthers offense this season, but he does have potential to one day be a head coach. I just don't think it's going to be here in Carolina, not at this instance, especially if Ben Johnson is going to be the top candidate for this team. Um, and then the whole other conversation about Ujiro Evero being considered as head coach as well. I don't see that happening either. As much as I would like for him to stay here in Carolina, um, look, it's going to be tough to keep around pieces from this staff to the next staff that comes in because of just the lack of success this team has had this season. I just don't see that happening. It's going to be tough for me to try and justify that. Let's bring in Thomas Frisbee's comment here. He says he doesn't see Brown as a candidate. He has a better chance of staying on as the offensive coordinator, but even I doubt that. And again, it just comes down to the people that Carolina is going to bring with the next coaching staff. I just don't see Thomas Brown as part of this long-term future with the team. Um, and I hate to say that because I do like Thomas Brown. He's somebody who has had a tough season, right? And while the offense has improved over the past week or so, like they put up their best offensive performance on Sunday, but throughout this whole season, it's been a problem. And whether it's on him, whether it was on Frank Wright, I mean, the results speak for himself in that regard. And I do think, he has a future um, to be a head coach down the line, but he's going to need probably another 2 or 3 years as a coordinator before he can confidently say that he has the resume to back himself up to be a NFL head coach. Um, and speaking of that situation, Thomas Frisbee thinks that he may go back to the Rams in some capacity. I think Thomas Brown is a good coach. I think he's somebody who brings a lot to the table, but I just don't know that it's going to be here in Carolina, just due in part with the lack of success with the offense and then with the people who Carolina looks to bring in. I just have a tough time believing that he would be a part of that staff. And that goes for Ejiro Evero, too. Somebody who, you know, has had head coaching calls this past offseason. And I think he's going to get some more head coaching calls this offseason with how Carolina's defense played this season. Uh, we're not going to talk about Sunday because that was the first time that really the defense let this team down. But I do think he's going to get opportunities elsewhere across the league. And I think those opportunities are going to be more enticing for him to leave than to stay here in Carolina. And I think with Evero, like Thomas Frisbee says, um, he's going to get a head coaching gig. Um, I think it's something that he's going to get calls for, and that's probably what is going to happen with Evero because I do think, as much as I would like to keep him here, it would be very tough for me to see him realistically stay here in Carolina when there are more opportunities to be out there for him. I would love to have Chris Tabor back. Um, and let's talk about Chris Tabor before I hop off here and end it off. I think he has done a pretty solid job so far, albeit one win, but he's got them playing, right? He's got these guys believing, and I've noticed some things over the past couple of weeks that have been um, improvements and steps forward. Um, Time management and clock management, he's been on it. He's been on them about not shooting themselves in the foot and handling the situation with character, right? And I do think he's somebody that is worth keeping around. Um, they kept him around this go around with the new coaching staff because he was a part of the Coach Rule staff last season, and I hope that's something that they continue to do moving forward because he brings a lot to the table, and I do think Sunday, um, he gets another opportunity to show what he brings to the table. And again, Thomas Frisbee with another good comment talking about Tabor, just allowing the coaches to coach and the players to play, right? And, that's something that, was not really evident in the early part of the year, right? There was a lot of micromanaging and a lot of undefined roles. That's the word that I want to use for that. Undefined roles. Too many people being involved in certain operations when there should be a clear and defined individual for that specific role. And I think Tabor has done a good job of decluttering the clutter and telling the folks who are in power right now at those respective spots that, hey, you are doing this job. I'm going to let you do this job. And we're going to have this collaborative process, right? But primarily speaking, I'm going to let y'all make your decisions and do it on your own discretion. And I think that is huge in terms of, building confidence within that staff, but also building those relationships with the coaches and the players, which in turn results to better play. We saw that on Sunday, offensively speaking. Defensively was a little bit of a letdown, but there's a lot that you can build upon with what they were able to do Sunday. And if they play like they did Sunday offensively and the defense rebounds, I would say Carolina has a realistic shot of winning in Jacksonville. Even more so if Trevor Lawrence isn't a go for Sunday's game. Um, but ultimately speaking, you got to give Chris Tabor the props for how he's handled this whole situation here in Carolina in terms of the whole situation with Coach Reich getting fired and then taking the mantle and controlling the situation. Matt Chatter saying, "What's going on, man? Glad to have you on here on a Thursday." And yeah, I think we're pretty good on time. So if any of y'all have any more comments, please leave them down in the comments section. Because I think I've had pretty much everything that I want to cover covered here on today's update video. And for all of you who's asking, where's Chris? The man's dealing with a personal matter up in Chicago right now. So he is unavailable to do the update video today. That's why I'm hopping on and covering for him as he is dealing with some personal matters up there in Chicago. So definitely going to have Chris's back whenever he needs the opportunity to take care of some things and for me to step in for him. So 100% going to help out whenever humanly possible. So with that being said, I think we're going to go ahead and close it on out here tonight. Of course, the Panthers are getting ready to take on Jacksonville. A lot was discussed today in the pressers. Thomas Brown had a lot of back and forths with the media today, a wide-ranging presser regarding his future, discussions about Chuba Hubbard, Bryce Young and a DJ Chark connection, his thoughts on that. A lot was discussed today. Players are getting healthy and getting back on the field for practice. Really, the two main concerns right now are J.C. Horn and Troy Hill, who are still dealing with some issues right now. So we'll have a better idea tomorrow as where their status is going to be for Sunday's game. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and hop off here tonight. Thank you for everybody who tuned in here on today's update show. We're going to be in touch here over the next couple of days, and we'll have you covered here for Sunday's game. With Chris Jenkins being in Jacksonville, I will be here in my home office here back in Charlotte. But yeah, be on the lookout for all of our content as we get ready to play the Jacksonville Jaguars. So with that being said, I'm Andre Cassidy on behalf of everybody here for Charlotte Vibe. Have a good night, everyone.